They'll pitch their tents on different areas of grasslands for 3 or 4 days at a time. They'll work at gathering the wood during the day and celebrate at night, enjoying their time amongst friends and families in the great outdoors before moving on to another grassland. It's a festival with a pragmatic element because it provides the essentials for getting through the winter. But more importantly, it brings families and friends together for some quality time. Now, perhaps us urbanites should take a page out of their book. From the Sangha grasslands in Xiahe, we travel south towards the capital of Gannan, Hezhuo. It's an hour-and-a-half drive to the small town that was once the historical business center for Tibetans and Han Chinese. Now, most tourists don't come here to visit the capital. Instead, they come for the Hezhuo Monastery and the monastery's famous Milarepa Tower. I did a little research beforehand, and so I can tell you that the Milarepa Tower is known to the locals as the Milarepa Buddha Pavilion and is a part of the Hezhuo Monastery. Built in the Qing dynasty, the tower has a history of over 200 years, although the original building was burnt down during the 1960s. The present tower dates from the late 1980s and stands at over 40 meters high. Now, it's a shaky climb up the 9 stories to the top, but I've heard that if you're game, you'll be rewarded with a fine view of the city. Truth be told, Hezhuo is a very small town, and there's not very much to see here. But there is one stop that you have to make if you pass by. It's the Mirabelli Buddha Pavilion, and it's a very important part of Tibetan Buddhism and a really great site. The Milarepa Tower is named after one of Tibet's most famous sons, a monk who lived in the 11th century. Jetsun Milarepa's story is a classic tale of good to evil to good again. Now, he was born into an affluent family, but after his father died, his aunt and uncle claimed the inheritance, leaving the rest of the family penniless. Urged by his mother, he left home to study sorcery. After years of delving in black magic, he repented his mistakes and dedicated the rest of his life to studying and teaching Buddhism. Although there are many legends and myths surrounding his life, he's most famous for his writings, which are widely known as the Songs of Milarepa. As teachings, they are sung instead of the usual practice of being chanted. You can visit Gannan all year round, but the best time to come is from June to August. It's then that the grasslands are in their full glory, providing a spectacular backdrop to your travels. I'm not sure if you're the kind of person that's going to start oohing and eyeing about fields of flowers, but you have to admit this is pretty amazing. In the southern parts of China, the rapeseed flower usually blooms around March, but up here in Gannan, even in July, it's still pretty cool. So this is just about the right season for it. Hezhuo can be considered the midpoint between two areas where the ethnic Tibetans lead two very different traditional lifestyles. You'll find that the Tibetan families living in the north of Hezhuo are stock breeders, while those in the south are farmers. As we leave Hezhou heading south, the scenery begins to change, and we see families farming. This is really different from the families we'd seen up north, who move several times a year, packing up their homes and leading their animals on to greener pastures. It's definitely not an easy life, but it's traditional, and it's the way these people have lived for generations. The men herd the animals, and the women take care of the household. From Hezhou, we travel south to a place known as the Switzerland of the East. I won't reveal where we're going just yet, you'll have to wait. But on our way there, we pass Gahai Lake, a beautiful, untouched piece of nature where the birds fly low, unafraid of the people snapping pictures by the lakeside. It's a popular stop for photographers, although there isn't actually an official entrance to the area. Getting in involves climbing under a fence or two, but as long as you leave without disturbing the natural surroundings, no one will stop you from getting close to the water's edge. The birds tend to be very trusting here. Maybe they know that it's against Buddhist teachings to harm animals. To be honest, I think there's a good chance of you getting hurt if you were to ever try and catch something here. So don't even think about it.
From Shahe to Hezhou and now at Gaihe Lake, we've experienced some pretty different scenery, not to mention climate changes. But it's all been spectacular, and that's exactly why people love Gannan so much. Thanks for watching Travelog. I'm Michelle Lean. I'll see you next time, but in the meantime, keep those bags packed.
Now, I thought the weather in Melbourne was fickle, but Gannan has given my Australian home city quite a run for its money. After a night in Machi, we pass Gahai Lake once again, and this time we're welcomed by clear blue skies. Yesterday, the lingering fog made the Gahai Lake area feel serene and a little mysterious, but today the water is sparkling and shining, inviting the passerbys to take a dip. This says a lot about Gannan, that you can come here several times and see the same familiar landscapes, and yet always get a new and different experience out of it. In the next episode, we'll continue our travels in Gannan with a trip to a little town tucked away in a valley, which is known mostly to backpackers and adventure-seeking travelers. I won't reveal the town's name, but here's a clue. Its nickname is the Switzerland of the East. We'll also be experiencing more of the culture of the Tibetan ethnic group in Gannan and picking up some fashion tips and a dance step or two from some new friends. See you then!